Hey, what's going on, everybody? All right, so today I'm covering a topic which is very important to me. Um, I was always strong growing up in gymnastics. I started gymnastics when I was 5. I competed probably from about 9 years old all the way through college at Temple University. And I was not weak, but I wasn't strong. I was always the person that had the craziest wipeouts. I was the person that when they got injured, they would return to their sport and then within a few months would get re-injured, and it was always a struggle. I even contemplating stopping gymnastics along the way, which is something that I know a lot of people in youth sports deal with is, how much can you put up with, really? I was very fortunate to continue to make it to a pretty high level of gymnastics. But how much these injuries slowed me down it just makes me wonder if I had known how to prevent injury, how much farther would I have made it if I was strong, if I didn't have to continually take, breaks literally every single year in order to break away from my sport before returning. And then when returning is a slow process, and then you just get back and then you just get comfortable and then something else happens. Strength is a big part of this. I didn't learn the right training techniques for really getting strong until I was already in college, training on the gymnastics team. Because I learned a lot of this as a kinesiology major, which is the study of human movement. And I didn't apply it really to my last year there. And when I finally did, I spent the summer, I exercised less than I ever had before. I was a lot more conscientious of the way that I did my strength training. And that fall, I was the strongest that I have ever been. All of a sudden, I wasn't afraid of falling because I knew I could catch myself. If I'm on the parallel bars, is known for having some pretty gnarly wipeouts. I knew if I lost my balance, I could just grab and hold myself. And I was not afraid to just fly or bounce off the bar anymore, which for me was a big game changer. So I'm trying to, in quick, basic way, hopefully 20, 30 minutes to go through this in a way that makes sense for you. Okay. So what do people do wrong? In gymnastics, at least, and I'm sure a lot of youth sports, it's just, don't sit around, never rest, just go, go, go. But the problem is that more does not equal better. And just continuing to go without having a specific strategy of why are you doing what you're doing, how many are you trying to do? Because if you just do as many as possible and it takes you more than 2 minutes to do it, or if you're doing 30, 40 repetitions of something just to say that you did, and when you stop it means that you're weak, it's just not true. And if you can make 30, 40 reps of something, maybe you should be increasing so you can't do so many, so that you actually build strength. You're not just getting tired and wasting your time. So that's what I did a lot of growing up, and I want you to not waste your time either. The first part about understanding the best way to strength train is to understand that there are 3 primary ways that the body creates energy for strength training. All right. So the initial set of energy is stored within your muscles, and it's ready to go at any time. It's already created. That's what takes over initially when you first start doing an exercise. That will last you about 20 seconds or so. It doesn't last you very long at all. And and when you use this, it tends to get the maximum contraction out of the muscle when you use it. But it only lasts 20 seconds. What do you do when you're exercising for longer than 20 seconds or so? Well, then you have a process of creating energy, which does not take oxygen. It's called an anaerobic way of producing energy. And this starts and takes over when the initial energy store muscle runs out. And that will last you up to about 2 minutes. But any exercise that's going more than 2 minutes, by definition, has to be oxidative, which means that it requires oxygen to make it. Oxygen meaning breathing, taking the oxygen from your breath, converting it to energy. It's a slower process, and it can be used to sustain for long periods of time. This is why long distance runners will always have a sprint at the end. How are they able to sprint after they've been running for so long? Well, it's because they've been running using energy from their oxidative system. Because the run is so long, they have to use that system. They can only sprint at the very end because while they've been sprinting, they've been replenishing the energy store and capacity for their in their muscles and for the non-oxidative energy producing system in the body. So that means that for about 2 minutes at the end, they're able to ramp up their power and energy, but they can't do it more than that. Once the other stores run out, oxidative has to take over, and oxidative is not going to give as much of that big boost as these first two energy stores do. Oxidative does not create energy quite as quickly, but if you train it, you can become more efficient. All right, let me show you a picture just to demonstrate what I'm talking about. A couple quick Google searches so that you can see. There's the ATP, creatine phosphate. That's your initial energy already in your body, already stored. It lasts about 20 seconds. Your anaerobic system will take over. And this one says 80 seconds, so it varies some per person. Can go anywhere up to 2 minutes. 2 minutes is usually what I see more often. And then oxidative has to take over after that. What's another one? Choose a different. Here's another one that I liked a lot. So you can see lots of energy up at the top left corner there. When you first start doing an activity, that's the energy that's already stored there, and it depletes really quickly. It allows you to have lots of power, but it goes away quickly. Your anaerobic takes a longer time to build. It does still have to create the energy, but it does not require oxygen to make it. And so it ramps up a little bit slower, but still pretty quickly, and takes over. There's kind of a crossover, and is at its peak 30 seconds and beyond. And then once it gets past that 2 minute mark, it runs out because it creates different byproducts being without oxygen, and it needs oxygen to keep creating energy. So that drops down. And then you can see this whole time you're aerobic, it's not like breathing isn't giving you energy. It is. It's just a slow build, and it can't keep you at that high level until passing 2 minutes, and then continues on from there. All right, let me try to get rid of that. Stop sharing. Okay. All right, so what, right? Well, it's so important. It's so important. The example I gave was with running, but it's important because depending on the type of activity you're trying to do, you have to train different. All right, so if for this example, we're talking about running and where it takes over. If you're, say, a gymnast and you're running for a vault, that's a very quick run. You're going to be running, 10 seconds, maybe 20 seconds. The whole thing is about maximum power output. It does not last very long. You're using all your energy systems at the same time, primarily all the energy that's stored initially. And if you train short sprints for the runway, you're increasing the efficiency of using the energy already stored in your muscle. You're going to tell your body, I need to do this more often, so it's going to store more energy. If you train it, it's going to increase the amount of energy that's stored because it knows that you're going to use it a lot when you train. If you're trying to improve your run for vault by doing laps around the track, running a mile or two at a time, you're training the entirely different energy system. You're improving your oxidative system if you're doing running more than 2 minutes. And if you're doing running for a minute, say, you think, okay, I'll just do short 1 minute runs, 1 minute sprints. Yes, if you're sprinting the whole time, you're using some of your energy that's initially stored, but you're primarily telling your body to focus on energy, which is going to last you about a minute, which is going to go into that anaerobic type. So whatever you train, that's what the body's going to improve the most. So for vault, you're doing sprints, not lasting any longer than 30 seconds at a time. You're doing that. You're resting long enough for your energy stores to fill all the way back up, and then you do it again. All right, so I just glimpsed a little bit on my next topic here, which is how long do you rest in between your exercises? And it depends on, again, which type of strengthening you're trying to do and what kind of energy system you're trying to do. It takes 3 to 5 minutes to fully restore the energy in your muscles, the ones that are already stored in there to begin with. Your body while you're resting, your body replenishes those. If you are trying to maximize your sprint for the vault, and you sprint down, you walk back, you had maybe a 30-second rest, and then you sprint again, what's happening is that your energy stores are not filled up all the way. They'll start, but it's not, because they're not all the way full, it's not going to allow your muscles to have a full, strong contraction. It's going to go into the anaerobic energy because the initial energy is already low. So the anaerobic energy is going to take over sooner. Or if the anaerobic is out and you don't rest enough, your anaerobic is already expired still, and then it's only oxidative, which is going to result in these slow runs. That's why if you do short intervals, you're going to notice you're getting slower and slower. But if you are doing long enough rest periods, a couple things happen. One is that you might wind up getting faster and faster every single time. And two, in the future, your body's going to maximize that energy initially stored state, and it's going to make a much better impact for you long term, say a week from now, a couple weeks from now. That's what it's going to improve. Okay, we've talked a lot about running, but what about lifting weights? What about specific strength training? I think this is so important. Another area that is done wrong a lot of the time, unfortunately. And when I'm not trying to blame anybody, I did it wrong for most of my life. My coaches didn't know. I didn't know as an athlete. So if you're doing strength training for the sake of making a muscle bigger, muscle growth, then it has to be low repetitions. What do I mean by that? Well, the first principle is you have to do an exercise until you fatigue. What's that mean? That means you can't do any more, or you can't do any more correctly. So if your muscle is tired, either you can't do more, or different muscles come in to make it look kind of strange when you keep going. You need to fatigue. So if your coach tells you to do 3 sets of 10, you're like, well, I'm not tired at 10, so you just keep going all the way until you get to 30. What does that do for you? It makes you feel good about yourself, but it probably strengthens you 0. Because the only way 3 sets of 10 makes sense is if you fatigue at 10, and then you rest, and then you do some more. By definition, if you can do 30 in a row, then you're not doing 3 sets of 10, you're doing 1 set of 30. And 1 set of anything is unlikely to make a very big difference for you, especially if you're already strong. If you're not, if you're out of shape and you start exercising for the first time, 1 set of things might make a difference for you. Just something's better than nothing, but you're gonna get the maximum benefit from doing at least 2 sets. 3 is golden, but you need at least 2 sets, and then more than 3 sets, you're probably not getting any additional benefit. So you want to fatigue out 2 times or 3 times with the appropriate amount of rest in between your sets. So how many should you be shooting for? To gain bigger muscle, you should be shooting for low repetitions of exercises. So if you have a weak push-up, per se, for an example, and you want to get stronger, maybe not specifically for your push-up, but you're trying to get stronger triceps or pec muscles, depending on how you're doing your push-ups. You want to, if you fatigue, if you're really weak at it, you're trying to fatigue at like 4 to 6 repetitions. If you're trying to build those to be bigger, the lower the number, the more just straight strength muscle it's going to be. You're going to get your max contraction at the very beginning because it uses all these energy stores at the same time. If you're doing longer than that, you only have a couple of the energy stores or one of the energy stores to keep going. If you want to do an exercise that gets you more, that is more of an endurance muscle. So let's say you are a long distance runner and you want to get your calves stronger endurance, then if you're not talking strictly about muscle girth, but you're trying to get them to endure longer, you have to train that. You want to fatigue your muscle, can't do any more or do it incorrectly, at 20 to 30 repetitions. So if you're doing calf raises and you can do more than 30, you're probably not maximizing the benefit from it. If you really want to get those, get that endurance in the muscles stronger, you want it to fatigue 20 to 30. What if you don't? What if you're doing the calf raises and you can do 40, 50, but you're just trying to do as many as possible? The exercise just simply is too easy. So how can you make calf raises harder? Well, you can go on one foot. You can wear a weight vest. You can have somebody, teammate, jump on your shoulders when you're doing calf raises. And I actually like that idea. One person jumps on your shoulders. Make sure you have something to hold on to so you don't fall. Do your calf raises. You'll probably only be able to do, depends on how strong you are, but 10 to 15, and as you get stronger, you can do up to 20. And then you switch. And what that does during the switch time, you get your rest time, which is imperative in order to get strength, to get stronger. If you just do one set, you stop for 10 seconds and then do your next set, you have not fully recovered, which means your energy stores are still fatigued. If your energy stores are fatigued, it's not going to contract your muscle well. And so you're not stopping because your muscle is weak. You're stopping because the muscle doesn't have the energy to create a full contraction. And you have to challenge the end range of your muscle contraction in order for it to get stronger. What about, I just went 4 to 6 and I said 20 to 30. Well, anything in the middle is going to, the closer you are to a low number, the more it's going to be straight muscle girth. And then the closer you get to a higher number, the more it's going to incorporate a level of endurance to it. So sometimes you need to get stronger, but endurance is also important. And so you're trying to fatigue out in the 10 to 15 repetition area. Again, you just have to adjust the difficulty of your exercise, the resistance of your exercise, until you're getting to that 10 to 15 minute mark. I left out some numbers. It's all intermixed, all these different energy cycles. But the main point to remember is you have to fatigue out. The lower the repetitions, the you fatigue out at, the bigger the muscle is going to get. How long do you rest between exercise? How long you rest, it also depends on what you're targeting. Because it takes 3 to 5 minutes to fully restore the energy that's stored inside your muscles, if you're trying to get maximum contraction of your muscle, which is required to get that muscle stronger, to really tear those microfibers so that it replenishes bigger and stronger, then that means that in between your sets for strength training, you should be resting 3 to 5 minutes. Does that mean you just sit on the bench? No, you can work a different muscle while you're allowing. So you do push-ups, right? You fatigue out. Maybe you're wearing a weight vest on your push-ups or you're doing a handstand push-up. You can only do 5 of them as your max before your arms give out. While your arms are resting, you can go and do 1 or 2 other exercises, which will take you 3 to 5 minutes to complete. That way, the next time you do your handstand push-ups, you're still able to do 5. Or maybe, now that they're warm, you can do 6. But you're still fatiguing out completely before moving on. You have to do 2 sets in order to get the most benefit. 3 is even better. And at the end, the opposite end of the spectrum is true. If you are doing 20 to 30 reps to maximize the endurance of the muscle, again, so it's not going to make the muscle bigger. It will make it stronger in an endurance type of a way, meaning that the contractions will be able to go on longer, stay strong for a longer amount of time, because the energy systems, anaerobic and aerobic, are getting more efficient when you're training them. When you're doing that, you don't need to rest as long because it doesn't take as long to to restore energy. If you're really focusing on endurance, then you should be resting about 30 seconds in between your sets. So you do 20 to 30 push-ups. I'm just keeping push-ups for to have the same example. I'm not sure. Unless you're training to pass some kind of exam that requires a lot of push-ups, you're probably not. It's not super important to have a bunch of push-ups. But you do an endurance with push-ups, you fatigue completely, can't do any more once you pass 25. You stop, you rest 30 seconds, and then you go right back to push-ups. And you do at least 2 sets of that. 3 is even better. So in this case, if you're doing endurance specific, you probably don't want to jump over to another exercise and then return, because it will probably be more than 30 seconds have elapsed by that point. Which will just make it easier, because you'll be using your energy stores will start kicking in again, and you'll have to go through those again. But if you're really maximizing specifically that aerobic and anaerobic systems, then you only rest for 30 seconds. That's why it maximizes your endurance by doing it that way. Everything in the middle will get a little bit of both. So there's some crossover. So if you, and it's perfectly fine to do this, you will get benefit if you do 15 push-ups, you completely fatigue at 15, or maybe you could do 25 and you're like, oh, I really want more of a strengthening effect. So you put on a weight vest, or you put your feet up on a block, you make it more difficult somehow. Now you fatigue out at 15. All right, awesome. You're getting a little bit of everything. And then your rest time should be kind of in the middle. 1 minute, 2 minutes, in that realm. The shorter the rest, the more it targets endurance. The longer the rest, the more it is targeting building strength, maximum contraction for that muscle girth growth. Okay? The last thing that's important is taking these concepts. I mean, this is a lot of general information and not a lot of specifics. Why? Well, there's so many different things that people are trying to accomplish. Depends on what sport you're in. Even in the sport that I know the best, which is gymnastics, it depends on what event you're doing. Sometimes there's a specific skill that you just are not strong enough to do. You have to figure out what muscle it is that you need to get stronger, and then you apply these principles to them. In my case, I always had bad elbows. If we're talking about injury prevention, I used to get injured in my elbow a lot. I should have been getting my biceps stronger, my ability to lift weight, to curl weight, much stronger, much sooner than I did. It's not that I was weak, but they were extra prone to injury, and I really should be maximizing my strength to protect against injury. I should have been grabbing weights to fatigue out at 4 to 6 repetitions, resting for 3 to 5 minutes, and then doing it again. I should have been doing that from the time I was a young teenager and above. And by doing that, I think I would have saved my elbows quite a lot. Instead, I was just generically strong. And you can't do gymnastics without being strong. You're mostly getting strong from doing the events. But lifting weights, applying these principles I can't even tell you. I started spending, instead of an hour on conditioning, I started spending 20 to 25 minutes specifically working on the things I needed to get strong the most. And I felt strong. I felt invincible the next competition season. And I want that for you now. I don't want you to have to wait until you get older. I hope that all of this information is very helpful. If you want me to give examples specific to your situation, please reach out, send me a direct message. You can ask me to try to make a generic video specific to the type of strength training you're trying to accomplish, or the skill you're trying to accomplish, if you tell me a little bit about it, or I can just respond to you directly that way. Please reach out if you have a sports facility or a gym that would love to get this information out to more people. I do occasionally set up some clinics where I give this to several students at a time. Students, athletes, depending on where I'm at. If that's valuable, please forward this over to your gym or organization, or send me their contact information if you want me to reach out to them. Okay? Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.